going to show you how to do a front fly zipper. This is the kind of thing, you know, I think there are some things that are legendary in the sewing community, like, oh, button-down shirt, oh, fly front zipper. It's definitely in that canon. But actually, the technique I'm going to show you, it's pretty much, you can't mess it up. It's actually pretty straightforward. And as long as you just follow the steps one by one, no problem. And then you'll be astounded that you managed to do it. So we start with our 2 fronts. So what I've already done is finish the inside. So we just serged down the inside of the fly and around the front crotch. So you need to do that first. Done. So we have our 2 fronts, and I'm going to lay one on top of the other, right sides together. There we go. And I am going to pin these together down the center front. Okay. So it's getting slightly thicker now. And this is where, you know, machines can start to struggle. In the first steps, they're usually okay. So you're going to have to test yours out. So I'm going to pin down here, and then I'm going to pin at the front crotches. Okay. And here is where you are going to want your marker and a ruler. So there is a notch at the top of the front pieces here, and you need to have that notch. And then you should have made a marking. There is a circle on the pattern piece that is here, which you may or may not be able to see. It's in my chalk, just here. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to draw a line and connect those 2 lines. And what this is this is actually going to become the center front seam. So you want to chalk a line there. Now, if you want to, you can chalk, this is 1/2 inch from the edge, so that's your seam allowance. But if you want, you can chalk in the seam allowance around the crotch. And I do that just because it's a bit easier. So what I do is I just move the ruler around. You get lots of short lines that are 1/2 inch. And basically, they end up being a curve if you keep on moving the ruler. I'm going to take that pin out because it's getting in the way. All right. There we go. Now, doing something a little bit unusual here. We are going to start down here using a basting stitch because this is eventually going to come out. So we're going to start at the top. We're going to go to 4 all the way down to the circle marking that we have here. So you want to make sure that that's clear. So we're going to baste down. When we get there, we're going to backstitch. Then we're going to change to a regular stitch. So we're not going to take the machine off. We're just going to sew, stop, change the stitch length to a regular, about 2.5, and then we're going to go around and backstitch, right? So baste to the circle, stop, backstitch, change to 2.5, go through. So I'm going to do that now. Get this in here evenly, and I'm going to start. Now I got to the dot, so I'm going to backstitch, go forward again, and now I'm going to change to a normal stitch, 2.5, and carry on. All right. So I'm going to get my ham. I'm going to open up the jeans, open up the zip fly here, and I'm going to press. There we go. So that's the first bit. And then we are going to press the front crotch to the left. So I'm going to make it over there and press it over. Oh, don't burn yourself. All right, there's a little pucker in mine. If I was doing this the real, I would probably undo that and redo that now, but for the purposes of this demonstration, we'll be all right. So we press that to the left. Okay, the next stage is we're going to do some top stitching. So we're going to flip the jeans over again, and I'm just going to add a pin on either side, and this is just holding down what we just ironed out either side. So the fly extension is now underneath, pinned down. I am now going to top stitch to the right of the center front seam. So the center front seam is here, and I'm going to top stitch to the right using my edge stitching foot. And when I do this, I want to catch the fly extension underneath. So by pinning it to the side, it kind of ensures that. So over to the machine. So this time I'm going to place the blade of the top stitch of the edge stitching foot in the middle well of the center front seam. The needle's over to the right. And we go down. Gonna get rid of that tail. There we go. And you're going to have to maneuver around a little bit when you get to the front crotch because it doesn't want to sit totally flat. But as long as what you're top stitching is flat, we are all good. There we go. Okay, so we now have one line of top stitching down the middle of our jeans. Next up, zip. Woo. So we're going to flip it over. And this is really just a case of just slowly follow the instructions and you will be fine. One thing I do like to do, if you're an apple shape like me, the zip is where an awful lot of the pressure is in stretch jeans. So I actually doubly reinforce, and I'm going to show you how I do that. So we're going to take our zip, metal teeth, and there's a right side up, which is where the zipper pull is, and a wrong side. We're going to put the right side down. So effectively it's right sides together. On the right hand side, fly extension, okay, so there's right sides, right hand sides, but it's basically face down on the right. The left edge of the zipper tape should be in line with the center seam. So it's going to look like this. Okay, not too hard so far. Now, I'm just going to hold that and I'm going to flip the jeans in half. So the extension's out, it's in half. I'm going to place it back where it was. Now, you want to make sure if you're using a zip that's too long, which is fine, that the bottom of it, the bottom of the tape should be on the bottom here, not the brass stopper, because you will break your needle, and not too long like that. If it's too long, you want it to be sticking up over the edge. That's totally fine. Okay, so we're aligned here. Now what I'm going to do is pin down, do a few pins on the right-hand side of the zipper tape. And now I'm going to change to my zip foot. If you don't have one, that's fine. And I am going to sew just to the right of these teeth. And I'm going to sew close. Now you don't want to sew too close or you're not going to be able to undo the zip. So it's probably like a 1/16, an 1/8 off roughly. So pretty close, but you don't want to be literally hitting the metal. So I'm going to use my zip foot and I'm going to sew down here. And I'm actually going to sew it twice because I want to reinforce it. Over to the machine. So I'm going to place my zip foot close to the zip. My needle's over to the left in this case. And I'm going to sew the zip tape to the fly extension. And then, like I mentioned, I'm going to do it again. You don't have to, it's not in the instructions, but personally, I've had too many pairs of jeans bust open to want that to happen again. So, safe rather than sorry. Okay, so the zip is now secured here. Now what we're going to do is flip it. This is something that I think confuses some people in the instructions, but when you see it, it's really easy. Flip. That's literally it, okay? So I'm going to do it again. I am going to basically flip the zip over to its right side, pushing the extension under as I do it. Hopefully that's clear. So now I'm going to do another line of stitching, and I'm going to flip this up to get out of the way. I'm going to stitch, again, regular thread, not top stitching thread, this side of the zipper all the way down along the edge. If you want, you can use the edge stitching foot again here. I'm just going to wing it with the zip foot because you can't really see it anyway. But again, we're going to be going down the side of the zip on this fly extension here. So I'm going to move the needle over to the other side. There we go. All right, so in my case, this is now basically triple reinforced, so it really shouldn't be going anywhere. So the next step is going to open the jeans out. So it's on the left and it's kind of a bit awkwardly sitting up here, right? Now we're going to do exactly what it wants to do, which is go to the left. And when I push it to the left from where it is, so it's there, push it to the left, it goes flat again. And that's how you know you've done the right thing. The zip is now flat. Now what we're going to do is pin the left-hand side of the zip to the left-hand fly extension. I'm going to do the same thing and fold the jeans in half again. So it's flat, it's not over like this, flush. And I'm basically going to repeat the same thing, but I'm going to now pin the left-hand side to the left-hand side. And this time there are 2 rows of stitching that we're going to do, but not on top of each other. The first row I'm going to do is just to the left of the teeth, close, going down. And then the second thing I'm going to do is down the edge of the zipper tape, just to secure it down. So you can do one and then the other quickly. I'm going to use my zipper foot again. So move my needle over. All right. Going down the edge, close but not too close. That's the first line done. Back to the end, and now I'm going to do the edge of the zipper tape. None of this is going to be visible on the outside, so while you obviously want to be accurate in all your sewing, this is not something anyone, including yourself, is ever going to see. Okay. So, we're getting really close now. Our zip is secured in there. The next thing we're going to do is top stitch the fly. Now, I have to say, of every single thing you do, the fly really is the most visible because it's top stitching right through the middle of where you look at when you look at jeans. So you want to do whatever you can to get it accurate. Go really slowly, redo it if you have to. Be really, really careful because it's going to make a big difference. Now, we have a fly template included in the pattern. So what we're going to do is lay that on top where the fly is. And you're going to see it's on top of the zip, right? I'm going to line it up with my existing line of stitching. Then I'm going to take my clover marker and I'm going to go around it. Now I'm going to show you what I do is I roughly go around it first, and then I get my ruler and I use my ruler because I find it much easier to get a very straight, sharp line using my ruler. And then you can also freehand the curve a little bit. Now, one important thing, and you can feel through, is that the fly needs to be going through and catching the bottom of the zipper tape. So I'm going to flip it over and just see. Oh, sorry, rather it needs to not hit the zipper tape. That's the important thing, the bottom of the zipper tape, because that is going to break your needle. So no, we are safe. That is not going to happen. So we have that one line. You can just do one line if you want, but actually classic jeans flies have a second line inside, 1/4 of an inch in. If you want, we have that line on the fly template, so you can trim it down and use it again, or you can trace through it, or you can just chalk it in with a ruler. So that's what I tend to do. So I'm going to go 1/4 of an inch in. And the key thing here is that it's not on top of the zipper. It's very close. Oh, sorry, not on top of the zipper teeth. It's on top of the zipper tape. It's very, very close, but you don't want it through. All right, so that looks pretty good. If you want, you can hold this against you in a mirror and go, does that look right? You do want it to be fairly narrow for women's jeans. It's a lot thicker for men's jeans, but normally it looks a little bit more dainty like this. Okay, so we're going to top stitch this fly. So this time you don't need a special foot because we're sort of in the middle of nowhere. In fact, if you have a fairly open foot, that can be helpful because you can see where you're going. So I'm going to do the outer first. And it really helps to go slowly here. So I have, in fact, not down the straight bit. Down the straight bit is pretty easy if you have decent sewing skills. When you get to the corner though, all right, I'm hitting the corner. I'm going to whap it down to slow. And I am going to slowly turn. Oh, my machine didn't like that bit. Okay, now I'm going to backstitch. All right, that worked. So I've done my first line. Now I'm going to do my second line. Oh, I need to get out of the way of that. Okay. You know what? I'm going to change to my zipper foot because I need to get close enough to the zip. Okay. Zipper foots are really useful if you're trying to do something close to something else. So in my case, I'm trying to sew close to the zipper underneath, so it helps. I'm going to go slow again. And back. All right, okay. So, not too bad. I mean, they could be maybe a little bit more parallel. So this is where, if you're really trying to do it well, you might decide to do it again. The other thing is that backstitching here, if it doesn't look good on your machine, what I would actually do is stop, take the jeans out of your machine, cut them, and then use a hand needle to take the thread to the back, and then you'll just get this perfect junction, and that will look really, really good. Okay, the next thing we need to do is finish top stitching below the fly. So I'm going to go 1/8 of an inch in and down here, sorry, 1/4 of an inch in. So we're just going to do the second line of classic top stitching. So back over to the machine. Okay, and you want it all to join up nicely. Yeah. This is another place, if you want, you could not backstitch, do a simple stitch and then use a hand needle to take it round to the back. Okay, so there is our top stitch fly. Now the next thing we need to do is a zipper shield. This is the kind of thing that if you've never made jeans before, you're probably thinking, what is that? You will never notice it. But it's basically what stops your jeans just looking like this on the inside. And that would be painful, probably, and also doesn't look very good. So we're going to make a zipper shield instead. So we have this piece of fabric. So I'm going to put these over here a second. So the first thing that we're going to do is fold this in half, right sides together. And then I'm going to sew across the bottom at a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Put it down to a normal stitch. Okay, done. I'm going to trim that in half, the seam allowance. And then I'm going to trim into the corner. So I'm just going to take the inside corner off. Okay, there we have. Now I'm going to turn it the right sides out. You can use a point turner. I'm going to use the edge of my scissors, which is basically the same. Obviously the blunt side. Okay. And then you can give it a quick press. Get this over here. Even that out a little bit more. Again, this is all on the inside of your jeans. All right. So zipper shield, that was easy, right? We're going to take our jeans to the wrong side. Okay, so now we have the zipper shield. We're going to place it on our jeans. So the sewn side is at the bottom, the open side is to the right, and you want to center it over the zipper, like that. I'm going to do the same thing of folding my jeans in half because, again, I want the zipper shield to be on the extension but not on the leg. So placing it on, and I'm going to pin. And just make sure you're not catching the actual leg behind it, you're only on the extension. And now I'm going to sew it. Okay, then you just want to finish the right-hand side of the zipper shield. And I will do that probably by serging later, but you can also bind it. One really cool idea is to actually take the same fabric that you've used for your pockets and make bias binding, and you can bind the right-hand side. Once you've done that, we're going to turn it over, and we're going to make some bar tacks. Now, inside scoop for you, my machine does not like making bar tacks with top stitching thread, and it's a pretty good machine. So I know that a lot of people have the same issue. I'm not entirely sure why they struggle with it so much, but they do. So one solution, and that's what I'm going to do, is actually to use just a brown regular thread rather than top stitching thread. The other thing you can do is actually, it's a great opportunity to personalize. So you can use red thread or blue and make it look really, really like special to you. And the purpose of the bar tacks is to connect the zipper shield to the jeans and anchor it down. If you don't, it's just going to flap around. So the two places we're going to do it are on the outside line where it's vertical, so here. So I'm just going to give myself a little reminder. And on the inside line where it's horizontal, here. And again, you don't actually want to hit the zipper teeth. That's important. You're trying to go through the zipper tape. So when I go to my machine, I'm going to change to a zigzag and a very dense zigzag. And it doesn't matter exactly where it is. You can look on your jeans. You're going to backstitch a little bit. You can look on jeans you own to see where you like. And it also doesn't need to be very long. I would say I usually make them somewhere maybe about ½ an inch. So that's my first one. Then I'm going to go around and do the same thing for my second one. Again, you can just tack this by hand if you want. If your machine really just refuses to make bar tacks, you could do them by hand, or you could also not do a full bar tack and just tack down the zipper shield on the inside by hand if you preferred. All right, bar tacks, and now the final thing, we get to open the zip fly, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, how did I make that? So I'm going to take a seam ripper, and be very careful here. We do not want to rip the actual denim. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out the basting stitch. Because you use a long stitch, should be fairly easy. Now you can see why we didn't want to use a regular stitch. And I'm just carefully pulling them one by one. And this is one of those miraculous moments, a bit like when you use the burrito method on a shirt, where you're like, I'm not quite sure why it looks like this, but it looks great, and I'm glad I managed to get there. So just going to take it out. Higher quality denim is also less likely to leave a line here. I'm not using the highest quality to demonstrate here, so you can see a bit of a line. But there we go, and you know, you can then pick out the little pieces. And look, we have a functioning fly front. It opens up, there's the zip, but it's fully covered. And then when we unzip the zip, you will see the fly shield in there. So that is our front finished. Onto the back.